All right, yeah, it was a very good lead-in for the talk I'm about to give, because what I really want to challenge everyone's perception is kind of what they hit on is what makes something edible, what makes it food. If I were to offer people the mystery can with no label, nothing in it, would anyone want to eat this? Not generally, because we don't know what it is. We know that logically it's sealed in that can, it's safe, it's probably healthy, but the fear of the unknown compared to a very nicely labeled can, which now we know what's in it, we know this is safe and we feel comfortable eating it. When it comes to wild foods, the same principle holds true, and most of us have been told, don't eat stuff. Don't do this, you can have this safe. One of the things that I think distills among everyone is if you've ever had a honeysuckle, if you've ever had a raspberry off the vine, at some point in your life, it became okay to have that. Someone told you that's safe and that's edible. From then on, anytime you saw a honeysuckle, anytime you saw a raspberry or mulberry, something out in the wild, you just simply know that it's food, that it's acceptable, and you can identify it. And the only difference there between that and so many of the other things that are available to you is that someone gave you permission along the way. They gave you a way of being safe and feeling comfortable eating it. What I do is go out and forage for a lot of wild mushrooms, wild ramps, there's wild spinach. Believe it or not, in Delaware we have wild ginger, which is something that most people think is a tropical, far-off thing. And the irony of most of this is that you've all walked by it 100 times in your daily life and didn't even know that there was food on the sidewalk. And much like they touched on in the previous talk, it's available to you and it's right out there, and we simply need to cultivate that into a food source. So one of the things that I find most interesting is the same food that we find on the ground for free, the only other outlet to receive that is in fine dining restaurants. We'll see it at White Tablecloth, you'll see morels, you'll see chanterelles, you'll see ramps, and they're seasonal. And there are people like me going out and finding these things. And it's not a particularly specialized skill, it's something that anyone can do if they learn about that, and they learn that identifying principle like the honeysuckle, like the raspberries. Once you learn to identify it, one of the mushrooms that I tell people they should go out and learn about, first off, is this chicken of the woods here. Now, what I like about this is the one similar to you see up there. Here's a picture of it when I found it yesterday in the afternoon on a log. I went out, I learned about the environment these grow in, I learned the time of year they grow in. So I already have two factors leading towards this is probably what I think it is. The great thing about this one is bright orange on one side, bright yellow on the other. It's called sulfur shell sometimes. It's really hard to mistake this for anything else. It smells lovely like apricots, and one of the reasons I think this is such a great mushroom for first-timers to go forage is you can see it from a mile away. It's easy to identify. There's nothing else on Earth except maybe some corals and things underwater, which you can't really mistake the woods for being underwater. You're going to find. And it's a great mushroom to find because it tastes good, so it gives you the reward. One of the things I like about foraging most is you're out in the wilderness. You're out looking for things that you would normally pass by. And these aren't, you don't have to go out into the far, through thorn bushes, over mountains. These are a lot of times things that grow on the sides of trails. So when you're out there, you're getting in touch with a very, instinctual thing. You're on a hunt, you're looking, you're treasure hunting. And the great thing about hunting for mushrooms is they don't run away from you. They don't mind if you're stomping on the ground and making lots of noise coming for them. And then once you find them, they're very easy to prepare and eat. Another thing is wild ramps, which is another plant that you'll see on people's menus as the season comes. It's a beautiful garlic bulb. You can see on the far side, let's see if I can get it. Yeah, there we go. You can see it has a bulb on the bottom that's the garlic. It's very easy to identify once you learn a few things. And if anything, people coming away from this talk, I'd like you to go out, look at different books, different magazines, websites, and you can actually learn one or two of these items. And the idea with mushrooms is you have hundreds of varieties. There's no way you're going to learn them all. But if you can learn one or two, and you add that to your repertoire. And then the next year, you learn one or two new ones. All of a sudden, you have local food available to you for no cost that the only other place you get for $20, $30 a pound at a gourmet market. So the ability to go out and feed yourself is such an empowering thing, because if our whole food machine stopped today, what would we do? Would we even know where to get nutrients from? The other good thing about local forage foods, this is an array. There's so many different types. Now, not all of those mushrooms are edible. In fact, most of them are not. But what you do is you find the one or two that are, you learn to recognize them. You learn what characteristics they have. You learn where they grow, when they grow, how they grow. And they become much more of a labeled can where you can now identify it, you can find it, you can bring it home, and you can eat it. And it's very, very good for a lot of reasons. One of the things that I really go out and look for is mushrooms like this. These are hedgehogs, black trumpets, bluefoots, and these are all mushrooms that can be bought commercially, but are also available locally for free. That's a really cool thing, because the amount of money that you save by finding food is a good benefit. The amount of nutrients that you're getting from something that really grew out of the earth and came up naturally, came up on its own when it rained. And unfortunately, this season has not been a very wet, rainy season. So the amount of mushrooms this year have been few and far between. This is a chanterelle that I found a few days ago. It's beautiful. There's nothing else really out there that looks like it. There's no gills on it. And for people getting into mushrooms, the fear is poison. They're scared they're going to get the wrong one and they're going to get poisoned. Now, most of the poisonous mushrooms are what we call LBMs, little brown mushrooms. And so we eliminate all of them altogether. And when you're out walking in the woods, if you see a little brown or a little tiny mushroom, you just say, no, I'm going to keep walking by that. It's not something I'm going to try. You look for the brightly colored ones that you can identify easily. And then once you get the knowledge, you can use them anytime. So here it just looks like a natural product. All of a sudden, you start cooking it, and it looks more like food, something you recognize. Put it in a final dish, and there you have something that we all recognize as a menu item, and it becomes much more familiar. So when you're out walking around in the woods, a couple things that are very neat happen. You find yourself going places that you normally wouldn't. You get off the beaten trail. You find yourself looking at every plant, every tree, every crevice in the ground, and you become more aware of your surroundings. And I think in life we tend to walk through life sometimes just looking at the sidewalk in front of us. We don't look up, we don't look down, we don't look left, we don't look right. This foraging mentality of gathering information, looking around, seeing things that excite us is a very universal kind of mentality, and you can bring that to your everyday life. You're out, you learn about the trees that are growing there that maybe you would have walked by, because those trees will help you to identify the wild plants and the wild mushrooms there. You start looking at things like landsquarters, which is a wild spinach, which probably everyone has growing on the side of the yard or in their garden. The wild ginger, which is along all the trails. Now you all of a sudden have access to foods that you can't buy in a store that have new flavors and exciting textures that you just can't purchase. So it's a very powerful thing to be able to go out and find food, but it's a great way of looking at life in general, is this foraging mentality, this going out and searching for something. I mean, it's a treasure hunt, and if you find it, you get this great reward, and then you can go cook it for friends. Every time we eat it, I take my kids out, and kids are amazing because they're a little lower to the ground. They tend to see things we don't, and they haven't been taught not to, don't look at that, don't just ignore that, just eat what we give you. So when I'm out with my daughter or son, they're looking and they're pointing out stuff, and they're asking me questions, and they're very, inquisitive. They want to see, what's this? Is this one edible? Can we have this? Can we take this home? And they get very excited and they get very engaged. One of the other things that I think, as a beginning forager, people are scared. They need to know, is this safe? Am I going to be able to eat this, or am I going to go get sick? There's a lot of information and resources out there, and what I recommend to people is find one mushroom, whether it be the chicken in the woods that I showed you at the beginning, a chanterelle, black trumpet. These are mushrooms that don't have lookalikes. They're very safe to eat because if you find them, you pretty much know they are what they look like. There's not something else out there. And you start by building one a little knowledge. I know this one mushroom, I can go find it. I know this one plant, I can go find it. When you go out, then you add a second one. Maybe you notice one. Every time I walk by this trail, I see the same one. I don't know what that is. So you take a mental picture, you notice it, you go home, you learn about it, and then you decide that, okay, this is now something that is edible. In many other countries, this is not so far off the norm. People go out and gather food. Up until a couple hundred years ago, we were hunter-gatherers for the most part. Then we got into cultivation and gardens, and then we got into readily available prepackaged foods. So right now, this information, this knowledge of being able to go out and identify plants, identify foods, is being lost. There's not a generational, the grandma taking the youngsters out and showing them this is edible, this is not. You don't have that honeysuckle moment where someone has told you that you now are allowed to eat this and it's safe. So as people tend to kind of go out on their own, they're scared, they're nervous. And I was too when I first started looking for mushrooms. I didn't know, what was what. I learned a few basic things, and I would find one type of mushroom that I liked. And then I would find another one. And the good thing is they don't all come up at once. You'll have seasons. So during morel season, that's what we're looking for. We're not looking for chanterelles in April because they're not going to be out. If you see them in April, it's not a chanterelle. You go through each month and there are different offerings. And the cool thing is the morels grow with the ramps. Guess what? They happen to taste good together too. You'll find that with chanterelles around this time of year, they're sweet, they're apricot-y, they go good with the summer menu. When you get into the fall mushrooms with the maitake or hen of the woods, which a lot of menus we're seeing that, they can produce that commercially, but the commercial version just doesn't have flavor, doesn't have the texture, and absolutely won't have the nutrients that the mushroom is gaining from the soil and the decomposing wood. What we see as a mushroom is simply the fruit. The entire mushroom is an underground structure or running through woods, and the mushroom that pops out is the fruit, is the apple on the tree. So you have this amazing root system going out, gathering all these nutrients that we can't eat. You can't eat decaying wood. You could try. You can't eat decaying leaves. You can't eat some of these things, but the mushrooms will take the nutrients out of that, convert it into something we can eat. So there's an amazing amount of medicinal and nutritional elements that are being overlooked in commercial food, and the limits of what's available in our supermarkets limits us away from these things. So I guess what I'd really like people to take away from this is that there is food constantly surrounding us, and we're not aware of it. We can become aware of it by getting the information and the identification, and basically you have to go out and label stuff yourself. You have to say, I know that these raspberries off this vine are safe to eat. I know that this honeysuckle nectar is delicious and safe to eat. I know, people know of dandelion wine. They know of certain things, but you'd be amazed if you took a walk with someone who's well-versed in these edible plants and showed you that you can eat. And things that you've seen 100 times. So foraging may not just be out in the woods. You may not have to go on a trail and go through spider webs and up the side of a hill. You might find some of these things growing alongside of your garden. And you've been plucking them for years, going, this weed just grows so fast. But in actuality, it might be lamb's quarters, which is a wild spinach. You might find wild asparagus growing. There's all sorts of things that simply pop up that we disregard as weeds because we haven't been labeled and identified that this is an edible plant. So all the information is out there. There are books, there's websites, and you can start to kind of identify these things. And as you remove the fear and the doubt, that kind of animal self-preservation, I don't want to eat this because it can poison me, you start to remove that, and you gain these skills, and you're all of a sudden able to go out and feel more comfortable finding something, plucking it out of the ground, taking it home, trimming it, washing it, cooking it, and all of a sudden you end up with something that went from a wild mushroom on the ground, something you've never seen, or a wild plant, something you've never seen, and you get something that looks like a gourmet dish. I'm amazed that these only show up in your finer dining restaurants. That the people who have access to most of these wild ingredients are in the top 1%. They're going out and they're they've got someone who's gone out and foraged them and then went to a chef and said, hey chef, guess what, I've got something cool that you've never had before. And then the customers get turned on to them. But the other side of that is that people who have very little money and don't go to fine dining restaurants are going out and collecting these stuff, gathering this stuff, feeding their families with it. And it goes beyond just plants and mushrooms. I mean, there's a lot of people out there who are still hunting for meat, whether it be venison, or there's a lot of gator shows now with swamp people where they're going out in the swamps and they're showing you that foraging for your food is societally acceptable. It's not a fringe thing. It's a great sport to me. I mean, for me, I'm in a kitchen all day surrounded by food. I like to eat, I like to taste. To be able to go out and get the exercise and be within this environment of this outdoors, it's amazing. Your senses perk up. You're looking for nuances in the ground. A little tiny orange cap that picks out. You walk over and check it out, and you'll see one chanterelle, and then you realize that they're all around you. And you start to zone in on what's actually around you instead of just, I went for a walk with the dog, we saw a few birds in the sky, and that was the entire thing. We missed the entire walk because you weren't looking, you weren't foraging for information, you weren't foraging for what's around you. And I think that concept can be applied to your day-to-day life. We go out, we have to be more aware of what's to our left, what's to our right, what's above us, what are we standing on? Because sometimes we're out collecting mushrooms and you realize you're standing in the center of a patch, and you go, oh man, I walked all over these. So, being aware of your surroundings, constantly trying to get more information from what's around you is kind of key, and it's key to the foraging, because if you just walk, you're going to miss everything. If you slow down, the idea is sometimes for people to rush and run along and try and find something, and if they slow down, you actually find more, because it will present itself to you as you open up your perspective and look out on things. You'll be able to find new things that you didn't know were there, things that you've walked by 100 times and never realized were a benefit to you. So basically, that's what I'd like everyone to take away from this talk is, can you find wild stuff? Yes. Can you find the information out? Absolutely. But the idea of this foraging is self-sustaining way of life where you're going out and looking for things that may already be there. It'll pretty much get you far, and I think it'll turn people on to a lot of new ideas.